I've talked before about how we keep our narration journals, and in this video I'm going to just talk a little bit about why, and then also some paradigm shifting that has gone on in me as I have learned more and as we've gone along in our homeschool. So my name is Joy Cherrick and welcome to my channel. On this channel I do videos about Charlotte Mason homeschooling, nature study, and family life. So one of the big differentiators in a Charlotte Mason education is narration, and narration is telling back. It's when a child or an adult hears a wonderful story or is read something that happened in history, then the child tells back what they heard and then they know. It is making that information their own. And what's fun about narration is you can read the same story to a group of children and each child will have something a little bit different to say, something that struck their imagination, something that captivated them. We were reading a book about migration at our morning time a few weeks ago, and one of my children was just so taken with the idea about the equator, so much so that he took the book that we were reading and copied the picture in the book all about the equator and declared, "I want to go and visit the equator." And I just thought that was so fun to see that child be so taken with that idea, and the other kids, that didn't really capture their imagination in that same way. And this is why narration is such a beautiful tool in education, is because you will present beautiful ideas, you will read wonderful stories, wonderful literature, but a child will take what is nourishing to them and at the time that they receive it. You don't know. I remember being in school and my teacher, we read something and my teacher, asked, wanting a very specific answer. And I just kept going, well, I didn't think that part was as cool as this other part. Like, why didn't you ask about this? I remembered that. So that is why we honor their personhood with narration. So as I have been using the CMEC this year, the CMEC is the Charlotte Mason Education Center, and it's thecmec.org. And we have been using their curriculum, but really I have been utilizing their teacher training. And one of the things that they talk about is all of the different notebooks that are kept in a Charlotte Mason education or can be kept. This is not like a list of things to check off. This is a really fun way to synthesize what we've learned. And so we this year started keeping geography notebooks, science notebooks, a truth, beauty, and goodness notebook. And of course, we had already been doing our nature journals. And then we are just rounding out, getting more robust way of implementing just journaling, keeping our book of centuries. And what's been really interesting about this is, so on the one hand, I think my tendency is to look at that as tasks that need to be completed. But that's the wrong attitude, right? The attitude, the orientation is we are receiving something beautiful, we're learning about something, there is some curiosity that a place that we've not learned about before. And then we are able to, so specifically let's talk about geography, synthesize what we've learned in our geography notebooks by drawing a map and making that notebook come alive with our own input and the things that we think are important about that region. Now, you don't want to make it about yourself, but I'll notice my children will some will be more interested in drawing the mountain regions, and the others will be more interested in drawing all of the rivers that, you know, kind of go in and all of that. So that to me is really, that's fine. I'm not going to sit there and require one child, oh no, you also have to put the mountains on. My bottom line is, no, we're drawing a map of this region. Like, that's what we're doing. And they have the freedom to go as detailed or as sparse within that time period the time frame that we're working in. So that has been really fun to see. And then as my older students are working independently, then they're able to draw pictures, or in our Book of Centuries, the CMEC made some recommendations for books that help round out your Book of Centuries. So this is a book called What People Wore. And it is all these beautiful line drawings from different time periods, and it is by Gorslin, Gorsline. And I'll link to this down below. But this has been really helpful, because then when we're studying a certain time period or reading about something, that we can get this book out. Oh, let's look up what they looked like. And then my kids are more inclined to draw a picture of what they wore in their Book of Centuries. That has been really fun. There are also, this one is by Edwin Tunis, Oars, Sails, and Steam. And these are boats from different time periods as well. So that has been another way to just provide something a little bit more robust than what I was doing before. I was like, why do all these people have all these beautiful, their kids like draw all these beautiful pictures in their books? Well, it's about training. We're teaching them and giving them tools and resources like, hello, thank you, I would love to know about this. Or sometimes they will even print stuff off beforehand and have those available so that they can copy them into their Book of Centuries. I would prefer, I don't have my kids print things off on the computer and then paste it in. I want them drawing. Drawing is so good for our brains because we start to see things more closely when we draw something. So we still utilize a basic narration journal in our homeschool, and that kind of changes as far as how much I'm requiring based on how old the child is. And sometimes a student will come up to me and say, well, I'd really rather draw about this because this thing was really cool. And that is great. As long as it's not all the time, I'm happy for them to draw a picture if it seems more appropriate. But for the most part, their narrations should be full sentences, capital letter at the beginning, period at the end. And as they get older, I'm having them expand how much they're writing. So, by the end of this year, my third grader should be writing 4 to 5 sentences. And right now he's writing 3. By the end of this year, my 4th grader he can probably write a full paragraph, 2 paragraphs. My 7th grader, in contrast, can write a full page. And I don't think more than a full page is necessary. Usually, if she wants to keep going, then I'm happy for her to do that. But for the most part, what I'm finding is that my attitude about the work has a bigger impact on how my kids implement the work that's before them. Do I see it as a bunch of stuff to check off? Well, then they're basically like my mirror. And then I will see, oh, you're acting like this needs to all just be checked off and get through it as fast as possible. But that's not what I want. I don't want them to just feel like they need to just blow through everything. I want them, which is why the timetable is helpful, I want them to know at the appointed time, at this time, I can spend and dive into this work and enjoy it for what it is and lose myself in it. And then I can really give myself to this task at hand, reading and then doing the narration, whether it's drawing a picture or writing something. And then when the time's up and it's time to move on to the next thing, then I can do the same thing and my attention will be fresh. And then what I do find is that morning session of work, those timetables, I really resisted utilizing the timetables beforehand because I was concerned that it would interrupt the sense of wonder and that it would interrupt their ability to really dive into things. But what I find is I'm limited. I only have a little bit of time in the morning where I have full energy that I can devote to homeschooling because I still have a house to run, people need to be fed, baby needs to be cared for, right? All of that still needs to happen during the day. But I'm setting aside the time in the morning between the time I get up until lunch, really, that I would be training them. I'm helping cultivate habits that my hope is they will pick up in the afternoon, that they will go, what we did in the morning was so beautiful. I want to continue that work in the afternoon. So that is kind of where the afternoon occupations comes into play. And I'm starting to see that a little bit, but I'm not seeing it like some of these people talk about, their kids are doing this or doing that in the afternoons. I'm like, no, my kids are playing outside, building Legos and reading books. And I'm happy with those things that's what they're doing, but they're not necessarily drawing maps and writing their book of centuries in their free time. But what I have found and what I'm going to start implementing in this new year is that if I'm doing something, if I find that it's worth my time to do, then they will pick up their books and they will add to them when I'm doing it. So when I'm doing my nature journal entry, the other kids say, oh, I want to do mine too. I want to draw that bird that we saw, or I want to add that one to mine as well. So it becomes more of a family activity because it is delightful for its own sake and something good and beautiful and true to think about, and not just a task that is on a checklist that should just be checked off and then move on and we never think about it again, right? It should become a part of us. So that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.